Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Enter the Gungeon. I'm Nye. It's 12:30 a.m. I just got back from work. And I kind of don't want to go to sleep because as soon as I wake up, I'm going back to work. So instead of that, we're going to do a run. And who knows? Maybe good things will happen. I doubt it, because, you know, it's me, but one can hope. So we're going to go for a bullet speed run. Or not speed run. I'm nowhere near that good yet. Rather, we're going for a bullet run. There we go. God, I've only done 50 out of 100 of those. Take and kill you. Let's get another two. Nope, another one? Okay, that's fine. Give up my damage list for a while, but hey! Who cares about damage list anyways? Got a shrine. D20, sure. Enfeebled and cleansed. Okay, so we lost a health, but we are no longer cursed. Which is interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about that, actually. That's actually a really bad deal. This early on. I would prefer to be cursed. But okay. We're going to go ahead and grab oiled cylinders. It's not going to be very helpful right now, but, does what count? Hey, look, a heart I can't use. What, does what count, though? Does it count towards what? I'm not sure what you're asking. This is no longer a cursed run. We are no longer cursed. Kind of part and parcel with the whole thing. We are no longer cursed. We have 0 curse. We have 0 curse and only 2 hearts. That's kind of what happens when you roll dim bones. Stuff like that occurs. But hey, you know. We did stuff, right? I mean, we didn't wimp out. We rolled the bones and we made it happen. I'm not allowed to do it again. You know what? If the next thing I encountered was a fallen angel shrine, I would totally do it. Like without question, I would absolutely do it. Well, the sawed-off is terrible. No buts about it. My gun is just flat bad. But yeah, like, if I found the Fallen Angel Shrine, I would absolutely do it. 1 curse and 1 less health for a damage upgrade? Absolutely. I can't think of any situation where I probably wouldn't do that unless it was the final curse that would put me into full curse. Ow. Thank you. Yeah, I kind of has a habit, don't watch TV, so never seen Gotham. Oh, right. That hurts good. But I don't watch TV, so, you know. And people always think that's so weird that I don't watch TV, but I really don't. Like, I would rather read a book, play a video game. That sucks. Yeah, I would rather do just about anything else, honestly. Okay, that happened. Well, that was a run. Sorry, guys, we're done. Nah, I'm joking. How do you simultaneously take 3 turns? Sequentially, maybe. Simultaneously would mean 3 different guns shot him at the same time. Or shot at him. Since it's Russian roulette. And I'm pretty sure that's not what you mean. But 3 turns sequentially, like 3 turns in a row, I could accept that. Where is the... Ah, that's where it is. Okay. Come this way. Got one. Oh, I almost got hit. I mean, to be fair, I could totally see the Joker taking 3 turns simultaneously as well, but I figured that wasn't what you meant. Okay, I'll be honest, I actually prefer this run as a cursed run. That way I'm actually getting the money for all this and, like, potentially unlocking stuff. That being said, I liked having the oiled cylinder. I would like to keep it. I would have liked to keep it. Because it's not a choice anymore. Just circle around. Does anybody else want a piece? Okay. Look, I have a sword, too. Mine's better than yours. It's bigger. I mean, I could absolutely see the Joker pulling something like that. Like, it would be like having the bullet, like the bullet gun, and just continuously shooting upwards, you know? Hi, come say hello to me. Come say hi. How are you not dead? I almost just bopped myself. Which would have been depressing and, let's be honest, predictable, knowing me. No. You don't get to do that. Don't bop it. Anything but that. And please don't twist it. Yes, please. Okay, we got a boss killer. And we have a room clear. We're in a pretty good shape right now. I wonder, I like doing old content and stuff. Like I was playing Final Fantasy 14 yesterday prior to streaming, and I'm doing old content quests that have no bearing or relevance to current quest lines. You don't get any items off of them that are worth anything, but I really want to do it for the story. And I had several people who were kind of like weirded out by the fact that I was working on these quest lines. They're, you know, they couldn't really understand why I would bother to do them. Which, I'll be honest, the fact that they don't want to do them kind of weirds me out. Like, it's like, do you not want story? Do you not play this? You know, you're not playing an RPG that the story comes with? Like, they are pretty damn cool stories, too, you know? I mean... Need to kill this guy. Thank you. See, I would be interested in Elder Scrolls Online if it had anything to do with Elder Scrolls in gameplay, you know? It's the fact that it and Elder Scrolls have nothing to do with each other in terms of full-on gameplay that just kind of, like, weirds me out. I'm not so sure lore on Final Fantasy 14, because the lore is a little bit weird. Let me just put it that way. But they've got some really interesting stories, really fun side quests. The stuff that I've been doing is the Beast Tribes, which basically, you know, the Beast Tribes, if you know any, especially the most recent Final Fantasies, there are some very specific Beast Tribes they always throw in. You know, the lizard people, the bird people, you know, so on and so forth, the goblins, kobolds. And the Beast Tribe quests have you, like, you are the ambassador to the only not asshole versions of, only non-asshole versions of these given Beast Tribes. And you're sent there to, you know, make friends, basically. And, you know, I really ended up enjoying these in kind of a big way. They have interesting stories. Each of the beasts, I've done what is it, 7 of them? 7 different beast tribes over the 2 expansions that have beast tribes already. And, you know, it's really enjoyable to do those. They're very interesting stories. Each individual beast tribe has its own kind of unique style to it, like its own customs, its own culture, its own way of speaking. You know, the Ixali, the bird people who lost their wings. They're almost lizard-like, but, you know, they seek to fly again, so they create airships and, you know, blimps and zeppelins in order to get back into the sky, and they worship the goddess of wind because, you know, as you do. And it's interesting because they talk kind of like Yoda. Not exactly in the reverse cadence, but they talk a lot like that. That's the kind of general idea to them. And they speak very differently and act very differently from, let's say, the Kobold, which is an entirely, like, 100% mining culture. Which is just, it's a very cool way to present an entire different culture, to have a dedicated way of speaking. I mean, I don't want either of those. Well, he talks. Yoda doesn't talk reverse cadence. It's in reverse noun verb order. I forget. There's specifically a name for it, and I can't remember what it is. It's inverse something, and I can't remember the actual official name for it. But there actually is an official name for that. Also, I'm very glad that that was a armor I just lost as opposed to a health. Well, yes, it's all fine for him to have perfect grammar in Japanese, but he's not speaking Japanese. I mean, he's technically not speaking English either, speaking, I forget it's Galactic Common or something like that. But, you know, it's 100% fine for him to speak that way, but if he's speaking English in that order, it's not the correct order. No, I understand what you're saying, but if you're speaking perfect Japanese grammar, that's great, but if you're not speaking Japanese, that doesn't matter. Like, my point is not that it's not that you're wrong, it's that if he's not Japanese, that kind of factoid is not exactly helpful. And I've heard a lot of arguments over what Star Wars is based off of, and most of what I hear is the Bible. So, I mean, your mileage apparently varies on this one. Can we aim a little bit to the left? Right there. Hello, Shock Scene. Welcome to the only run of the night. Hopefully. Hope it'll be one good run. Hi. Okay. Oh, hey, that happened. I thought I had that timed right. Apparently I did not. I was wrong. Well, that sucks. Okay, look, can you... Like, thank you. I'd like to not die. I don't think these guys can hurt me at all because I can't take contact damage. But they can knock me around, which is the problem. You die already? Thank you. The sad thing is, this is not necessarily the only gun for me to use, but this is kind of my best option right now. Either that or it's using close range sword. Stop that, please. Thank you. Close range sword. Okay. Alright. Okay. I'll take it. Why did I leave this key behind? I don't know. That's some bad. You know what? Gonna take the gun boots. Why not? We're gonna take the gun boots. See what happens. Oh, that was close. I kind of want this gun to run out of ammo, because it gives me a free chest when it runs out of ammo. I mean, you may be right about the whole Star Wars thing, but what you gotta remember is that a lot of that stuff about, for example, Senator Palpatine, not Emperor Palpatine, but Senator Palpatine, as far as I'm aware, was not actually written when, that was interesting, was not actually written, like, at the time. Hello. I'm interested in the RC rocket, I'll be honest. But yeah, I mean, you gotta remember, like, stuff like the Clone Troopers, for example, was not written when the first Star Wars came out. That's all, like, that's all new stuff. That all came when the prequels came out. So, that might be what it was, like, oh, crap. Holy crap. Okay, okay. Okay, hold on. We're not dead yet. And hopefully not going to die. Did you not... You had no item? What? Excuse me? Oh, is it this? Oh, it's this. Okay, it's M1. Nice. Beautiful. I like it. Okay, this guy. Okay, nice. Actually got a kill with the gun boots. I need to play down well. I've heard great things. Heart, please. No? Okay. Hold on, I can't really dispute things while I'm trying to fight for my life here. And keep in mind, I am not the biggest Star Wars nerd, so there's a certain amount of this, like, you probably know more than I do about it, so I can't really talk to it at all. Like, I like the movies and I like the games to a certain extent, but that's about all I got. Okay, let's see. I mean, but the Jedi aren't loyal to the Council, though. That's kind of part of the point of the prequel storylines. The Council was a bad idea. Like, the Council ended up being one of the things that ruined the Jedi towards that point in history, or at least so is my understanding. I'm gonna put that out there. That is my understanding of it. Is that? Hey, dog, shush, 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 shush. I know someone's home. I got it. But yeah, like part of the concept is that loyalty to the Council over loyalty to the yeah, I know you're talking about Jedi Council. Loyalty to the Council as opposed to loyalty to the credo of the Jedi, which was the original thing, is what ruined them. They were too worried about being neutral and being, you know, following their oaths. And I'm gonna have to pause for a second. Hold on, guys. I do apologize about that. My dog had a panic attack. But yeah, it's like the fact that they were more loyal to their creed as opposed to helping others and, you know, okay, that sucked. Helping others and all of the other aspects to being a Jedi is what caused the downfall of the Jedi, in part. Because they were more interested in, you know, oh, we don't, you know, you're not allowed to have, you know, marriage or anything like that. That's got nothing to do with being a Jedi. Marriage, it's, you know, no, the credo has nothing to do with the Council. The Council is not involved in that creed at all. You know, the creed I'm talking about is, crap, I can't go look it up. You know, there is no blah, there is only blah. There's this whole creed that they follow. And it's very much focusing on, like, peace and tranquility and things like that, and ends with there is only the Force. But, you know, the idea was that, you know, don't let your emotions rule you. There's something up here. There, I can go get. The idea was don't let your emotions rule you. It's, you know, rule them, make your decisions, be logical, help others, things like that. There's kind of this entire thing, which kind of got twisted by the Sith when the Sith got around to it. And, let's just do that. Yeah, there's no emotion, there is peace. There's no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there's serenity. There's no chaos, there's harmony. There's no death, there is the Force. That's, yeah, so that's the creed. But nowhere does that say there is no love. It doesn't say there is no, it doesn't say there is no emotion. It doesn't say there is no, so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. So, what you gotta, I don't really want that brown chest. I want that to be a nothing, another chest. So the problem is that you have, that's the creed right there, but then you tell someone like Anakin, who already has issues with, you know, relationships and losing people, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to have this relationship with this woman. That's against our creed. You're not allowed to have that. You know, you're not allowed to have anger. You're not allowed to have upset. You must get rid of it. You know, you're not, you're not allowed to have that. So that creed is you must learn to master it, not you're not allowed to have it. But they told him he's not allowed to have it. He's not allowed to be human. And that's the problem. And so it went from, we have this really great idea, let's use our powers for the good of, you know, the good of the galaxy, to we have this really bureaucratic council that decides everything. You can tell me where marriage has anything to do with passion. I'm just going to point to stuff like arranged marriages and, you know, marriage over pregnancy and stuff like that, where there's no passion. And I can also point to a lot of, you know, elderly folks that there's no passion left in it, but they still have the marriage. The marriage is a joining of two people who live together. That's kind of about it. So, you know, I think passion in their case is excessive emotion. You know, I am passionate about sort of thing. And you can kind of understand where they're going with that, but even that's a problem. You're telling people to suppress themselves. That's not going to work. We already know with current day psychology exactly what suppression does to shit like that. It makes Anakin. You take a little boy who just lost his mother and you tell him you're not allowed to feel grief, and you're going to get bad things to happen. I mean, keep in mind, again, this is... You're going off of your impressions, I'm going off my impressions. I am in no way a scholar of the series. Well, yeah, he was deeply tied to the woman, but why is that a bad thing? Why is his deep emotional tie a bad thing? If the argument is that he can't make informed decisions because he's in love with her, because he's if he can't make informed decisions about what to do about her as her defender, okay, that's one thing, fine. Just take him, like, tell him to recuse himself from the situation. He will no longer be his defender. Find some other use of Anakin. There's plenty of Jedi. We don't need him specifically to defend her. But that's not what they did. They said you're not allowed to have this relationship. You must still be with her. You must still defend her. You must still protect her. But you can't have that relationship. Hell, the company I work for has policies like that. They don't say you're not allowed to be in a relationship with this person. They just said you're not allowed to work with them. Because you might not be able to make good decisions in that case. And that's fine. That's good. Okay, I'm not allowed to work with them. I'm not allowed to boss them around in case I make bad decisions because my judgment is impaired. Cool. That makes sense. Oh, you're not allowed to be interested in them, but you still have to work with them. That makes no sense. But that's what they told Anakin. Now, I'm not going to say that the episode like 2 and 3 and to lesser extent episode 1 versions of Anakin are well written and that we have, you know, that the council is the only problem. But the council as written is a terrible idea and ruins the Jedi. Now, I will say as written, because apparently there's other versions of them that are not as stupid. Also, on a slightly different note, how did I spend the last floor and a half as the Lost and now I'm at full health again? That makes no sense. Arguing about, like, as the Lost, fighting, and arguing about freaking Star Wars. Makes no sense whatsoever. Sure. I mean, part of me would want to look into, you know, other versions of Star Wars, things like, you know, Knights of the Old Republic, which shows the Jedi completely without council, or, well, not without council, but with a different version of the council, a more interesting council. But that's not considered to be canonical anymore, so it's kind of pointless bringing it up. I sadly was never the biggest person into Star Wars. I always loved, like, the original movies, but that's about as far as I got into the fandom. Read a couple of the, like, expanded universe books, and they were interesting and no longer canonical. But, that's about all I did. Played a couple of the games that are, say it with me now, no longer canonical. Thank you, Disney. But, you know, there's always so much of it, and I found myself not caring if Luke, Leia, and Han weren't involved. Like, that almost goes with my... Okay, look. I'm gonna say this. I understand why Disney is screwing with the canon. I understand why. And it's actually a good reason. It's because Lucas kind of let anyone make anything canon. Like, that's really how it was. He kind of just said to everybody, write what you want, we'll put it into the universe, we'll just make it the expanded universe, and that'll be fine. And you kind of live with how much of the universe you want to be. Well, that's a great idea to a point, but when you're someone like Disney who wants to make a, Disney wants to make a universe that fans can really get deeply invested in. And it's really hard to get invested in a universe that is so deeply contradictory the way Star Wars is. There's some really weird stuff that happens in the expanded universe. And this isn't even talking about the books. This is talking like the video games, for example. Like, we get some really weird nonsense when it comes to the video games. Can I stop getting brown chests, please? Yeah, but you end up getting this really weird stuff, and it's very hard as a viewer who, or just, you know, a random person who's trying to enjoy the series when every other thing you read is different, you know? Like, there's a couple of different, not so much theories as a couple different versions of what happens after the Emperor dies. I know that in one of them, Luke goes dark side, has to be saved by one of Han and Leia's kids who is Force sensitive. But that kind of goes a little bit contradictory with the fact that, damn it. It's a little bit contradictory with the fact that that supposedly you cannot go back if you've gone dark side. Like, that was another thing, is supposedly if you went dark side, there was no saving you, even though Vader supposedly does it. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in the expanded universe. There's the cloning of the Emperor, because there's enough DNA evidence on his glove to bring him back or something. I never understood that particular storyline. God, we're just getting terrible items. So I think, you know, Disney probably has the right way of it by doing what they're doing, by, you know, kind of annulling the stuff that makes no sense and expanding where they can. You know, that makes sense. It really does. There's just a couple things I think are fan favorite things, like Knights of the Old Republic, for example, that it sucks that you have lost. Should you have summed up your argument for why they don't want any emotional ties? Did I miss something? I feel as if I missed a potential block of text because I did not see a expanded argument. I thought I was responding to it. No? Here, maybe? Nope. Okay, I give up. You can try to resend it, sure. Don't do that nonsense. Yeah, if you're sending something along, I'm not seeing it on my end. You know, I like the gun boots, but I don't like using them. Like, I have a hard time deciding a good time that they would actually be functional and useful. I love the idea, I really do, but it's like, I don't see incredibly useful times to use them. Because it's not often that I'm dive rolling away from someone. Yeah, I don't know if you're hitting like a text buffer or something like that, like, you know, a limit, but I'm absolutely not seeing anything come from you, like, argument summation. I'm seeing you tell me that you're going to try to sum, but I'm not seeing, like, the actual argument itself. Do you want to die? Okay. I like this room. This is a fun room. Oh, that sucked. Get behind me, Death. Sure. There we go. Can we stop this? Can we just not do this? Like, I'm gonna dance around you all day long. It's gonna get irritating. It's good. Use a key right here. Interesting, okay. Well, okay. Who says the Jedi are neutral? Who says that? Where did that concept come from? Like, that's you're taking some basic assumptions and running with them, which is fine, but you gotta remember where those basic assumptions come from. Who says the Jedi are neutral? For that matter, kind of on a similar note, who says the Sith are bad? What you got to remember, what you got to look at, is you got to kind of look at some of the when we look at Star Wars, the movies, right? So, for example, Star Wars episodes 4, 5, 6, the original. Let's not even bother looking at, let's not look at the new trilogy. Let's not look at the newer trilogy. Let's not look at the prequels. Let's not look at the new trilogy. Let's look at specifically Star Wars, just the original 3. The only person that tells us that the Sith are bad is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Him and only him. The only viewpoint we ever see the story from is the viewpoint of specifically Luke Skywalker, who was taught by Obi-Wan Kenobi. We see a little bit of Yoda, but Yoda's about it, and Yoda outright tells us that Darth Vader might not be a bad guy. Darth Vader, the epitome of bad guy. What we end up seeing is the entire story from the viewpoint of the rebellion. That's about it. We never really hear why the rebellion is rebelling. They're rebelling because they're rebelling. Because there's something they should rebel against. The Empire is bad. That's about all we ever hear about them. But what you gotta remember is an empire doesn't reach empire status unless it's doing something right in the first place, at least up to a point. And most big groups of government is gonna have rebels at some point or another. Because every empire, pretty much to date, and I do say empire specifically, but every empire does, you know, does eventually have rebels and fall. Again, to date. So it's kind of one of those things, like, we're taking it for granted that the Jedi are good, the Sith are bad, and that what the Jedi stand for is good. We're taking it for granted that they're supposed to be neutral, but for all we know, that's not what they're supposed to be. Oh, okay, hold on. You're saying that emotional ties can lead to a big head. Can you name... I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure almost every president of the United States has been married while in office. So, by your logic, they should be forced to be divorced before they go into office, because being married prevents a clear head. Every head of state, every general, every soldier, every cop, every judge, every single one should be forced to divorce before they can be in power. That makes no sense. But that's the problem. That's what the Jedi were saying. You must, you know, completely lose emotional ties before you do it. And the problem is, what they're saying is stop being human. They have protocol droids for that. They do not need them to lose their humanity. I mean, the Jedi do try to avoid taking sides, but that's the problem. They don't avoid taking sides. In fact, almost every time we see the Jedi, they are taking sides. They are taking the side of the underdog versus the big dog. They're not avoiding taking sides. They're just trying to decide which side needs their help, and that's fine. If they're going to act as arbiters, and if they're going to act as, what's the word I'm looking for? If they're trying to act as balancers, and if they're trying to act as, okay, I kind of figured that was coming. If they're trying to act as defenders of the meek and helpless, which generally seems to be what the Jedi were doing, that is absolutely fine. But that has nothing to do with not taking sides. It has nothing to do with, again, being, yeah, arbiters. You know, choosing not to take sides is all well and good, but... yeah, they were living robots. That's exactly right. That sucks. Double sucks. Because I think, you know... it's, what we end up having with this is we end up having a false, or not a false, we end up having what's called a faulty narrator. The guy who's telling the story, specifically Luke Skywalker, does not know everything, and so, the problem is, in the story, he's kind of shown at being a know-it-all. He knows everything by the time the third movie comes around. And that's fine and all, but he really doesn't, and that's what really screws up with our audience expectation of what's going on. Because we're told by an imperfect narrator what's supposed to be happening, we don't know what's happening correctly, and he doesn't know what's happening because he was told the story by the wrong person. Yeah, I'm immune to poison. Whoop. At the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself, you know, a couple of things about a story like that. Well, no, Luke doesn't really think he has all the information, but he thinks he has enough information, and that's the thing. He goes off half-cocked quite a lot. In fact, he gets warned about it on at least one occasion that he should slow the hell down because he doesn't know what he thinks he does. He also repeatedly ignores this topic. But remember, you gotta remember also, the person who was telling him he was going off half-cocked told him, number one, if you do this, Vader wins. That was wrong. And number two, if you do, the only solution for you right now is to let your friends die. What type of person tells you that? Especially a person trying to be your mentor, trying to make you a defender of the helpless. Yeah. That's if I remember correctly, that's literally called the imperfect narrator. It's a type of narrator that you have, is a narrator who doesn't know everything. It's typically it's typically one of the characters who's telling you the story, but they don't know everything, which means the reader doesn't know everything. It's a little bit different from a narrator who does know everything, who is just refusing to tell you, which also happens. But there are narrators who will tell you everything that's going on. They will not hide anything from you. If they choose not to tell you, that's one thing. But if they tell you, they won't tell you wrong. But in a lot of these hero stories, like Harry Potter and Harry Potter, a little bit with oh, that sucked. This is a little bit Lord of the Rings, though I don't think Lord of the Rings was quite so obnoxious about it. You know, they hide stuff from you to kind of make things work. You know, and they tell you, hey, this is how it is. Later on, they might tell you, oh no, this was not how it was, but the reason they told you wrong in the first place is because the character didn't know, and the character is the one who's telling you the story. Well, there's the concept of not all battles worth fighting for, and there's also the concept of you fight when you have, you know, when there's no other choice, right? Even if you're gonna lose, you fight. Well, I think the idea behind him not leaving was that he wasn't ready to fight. And let's be fair, he actually wasn't. Luke ended up losing the fight against Vader, which is exactly what they assumed what was going to happen. But what Yoda didn't know is that there would be a situation where Luke could get out of the fight with Vader without dying himself and being turned himself. So, you know, Yoda was missing information the exact same way that that Luke was missing information. Well, no, see, that's the funny thing. If he had not gone, Vader would not have won. Vader wouldn't have gotten anything. Vader would have potentially gotten, Han and Carbonite, which he got that anyways. That's nothing different. Vader didn't want Han anyways. That doesn't change anything. Vader might have gotten Leia, but remember, at that time, Vader did not know that Leia was Luke's sister. Vader didn't know Luke had a sister. So Vader would not have gotten really anything. He would have gotten a hostage, but he had that anyways. He ended up having that anyways. So no, he wouldn't have won a damn thing. Luke would have just gone to save them. It would have been a slightly different movie. He would have gone to save them aboard the Death Star, as opposed to going to fight above the Death Star. But that wouldn't really have changed much. He still would have sacrificed, or not sacrificed himself, but he still would have surrendered himself. He still would have gone on the Death Star, and he still would have fought. It just would have been a little bit different, because what would happen is that Vader would have had Leia at the time, and so the final fight would have been a little bit different because Luke would have had to protect Leia as well. That's about it. Not much would have changed. I mean, yeah, everybody in Star Wars suffers from lack of important information, but that's usually the case in most things. You know, most people don't have perfect information. You don't usually get all the info. It's very, very rare that you have a book or even situations in real life where you know everything. But it gets really boring in a lot of cases when you do know everything. actually, that's a really fun narrative concept for you to play with, is the concept of that big reveal. The moment where your lack of knowledge is revealed and you have to decide what to do with it. I think one of my favorite examples was actually Harry Potter. Just that's you know, I'm at least a little bit of a Harry Potter nerd, not as much as some people, but you know, the concept of Dumbledore not being this tremendously awesome and good guy who's, you know, the god, the savior, the amazing one. He's not always right. He's not always perfect. That really changes. You know what? We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. But the idea of Dumbledore not being this amazing savior really changes how Harry feels about the man, who has been like his mentor in a lot of ways, as well as his you know, it changes what, like, his, not only his mentor, but also kind of his, you know, his last hope in every situation. Who do you go to when everything is done? You go to Dumbledore. And then all of a sudden, okay, that seeked me. You know, all of a sudden, Dumbledore's no longer this, this perfect guy. He's no longer, the best man. And that really changes how Harry feels about him. The same thing happens with Snape. The same thing happens with Sirius. The same thing happens with Remus. The same thing... The books do it over and over and over. The lack of information shown, or that Harry knows, as soon as he learns that critical piece of info, his world turns completely on its head. And that really changes the character. It forces him to grow as he has to accept what he's learned. It changes a lot of things in a big way, and you can't have that if the character knows everything. But it also has to, you know, it affects the reader too. If you knew what type of person that, again, Dumbledore, Sirius, Snape, if you knew what type of persons they were from book one, it wouldn't be a big deal to you when that twist happens. But because you didn't know, because you were watching through Harry's eyes the entire time, you were experiencing his thoughts, you personally accepted every single one of his misconceptions, his misunderstandings. It was kind of forced upon you as a reader. You had to accept every time he screwed up. Every bit of you know, if I can't think of an example where Harry was racist, but if Harry was racist in a way that we didn't understand was incorrect, you would have to accept that, because that's how it's kind of taught to you. You know, you're taught throughout a lot of the books that what's her name, Fleur Delacour is a kind of a vapid pretty girl, and it turns out she isn't, and that's kind of a big deal. So it's kind of that thing. Using that imperfect narrator allows you to play with the reader, allows you to play with the character, and make these kind of big reveals. If you kind of don't do that, you don't get to do that anymore. But it also kind of screws with us, because then we don't know the truth. And if the media doesn't tell us the truth, then we're never going to know. We'll have this conversation until the end of the earth. Hence, Jedi. I did it! I brought it full circle! I love having these long, rambling conversations where you have to figure out, wait, how did I get here again? What were we talking about? Got so far on just 4 health. We got our 1 master round. We got very little. If you really look at this item list, we got very little that was particularly useful. The Brick of Cash we got very late, didn't help us much. I think we got like a blank out of it at most. Hegemony Rifle's bad, so is the Dueling Pistol. The Void Assault Rifle's mildly okay. The M1 was good for a while, but, you know, we got the Science Gun late, and that would have been nice earlier. The 2 Amulets are okay. The Frost Giant's bad. I mean, it's okay, like, floor 1 or floor 2, but it's bad in general. Bug stomping boots, meh. Same with the gun boots. I mean, look, you know, you're bringing up things like Nazis and Hitler, and while that may actually be in there, I haven't followed JK enough to know if she she pointed that out. I'm not gonna take that comparison that close. Like, I'm really not going to. I can see the comparisons, I can see that, but it's one of those, like, it's not really needed, you know? We can have a really good evil character, and they don't have to be a Hitler analog. We can have a really good evil group, and they don't have to be Nazis. We're allowed to have that. Now, that being said, she may have outright said that's what it is, and I might be missing something, but it's kind of that whole. It's not even Godwin's law that we bring up at this point. It's just one of those. You don't need that. You can have evil without having to have it be an analog of a current evil. You can have Sauron. He doesn't have to be the devil. You know, you can have these people, and they don't have to be analogous to another evil we know. They can be their own evil. There's plenty of evil on Earth. We don't have to compare fantasy to it. You can. It's really good for compare and contrast, but we don't have to say that it's a. We don't have to say it's a direct analog. Look, the best I know, I took Philosophy 101. That's about it. I enjoy debating philosophy with people. But it is 1:27 a.m., and I have to be up at 8:15, so I need to leave. Let me end the YouTube recording. Bye, YouTube folks!